Insurance fraud in the UK has hit epidemic levels. It's costing us around £2 billion every year. That's almost £6 million a day. Deliberate crashes, bogus personal injuries, even phantom pets. The fraudsters are risking more and more to make a quick killing. And every year it's adding over £50 to your insurance bill. But insurers are fighting back, exposing around 14 fake claims every hour. Armed with covert surveillance systems,
that's a subject out the vehicle,
sophisticated data analysis techniques, and a number of highly skilled police units. They're catching the criminals red-handed.
Just don't lie to us.
All those con men, scammers and cheats on the fiddle are now caught in the act and claimed and shamed. Coming up, diamonds are a girl's best friend, but one fraudster comes up with a real gem for his claim.
They found a picture of his fiancée wearing a ring that looked remarkably the same as the ring that he had reported stolen whilst in Brazil.
A policyholder makes a Blue Peter attempt at his insurance claim.
When the box appeared, it was obvious. My 9-year-old child could have done a better job.
And IFED are out in force across the country, tackling suspected travel insurance fraudsters.
We're looking for the products that you reported stolen. Are they here?
For sun, sea and a bit of romance, you can't beat jetting off to an exotic location. Up to 250,000 Brits visit South America each year, but levels of crime are high in this part of the world. And if you get robbed while on holiday, it can put a real dampener on your trip. In this particular case, newly engaged couple David Hammond and his new fiancée headed to the bright lights of Rio, and they obviously wanted to bring the diamond sparkler with them.
Mr. Hammond claimed that whilst he was in Rio de Janeiro, on the last day of his holiday, he'd packed up all of his belongings. He said that he was keeping the ring for safekeeping. He didn't want his fiancée wearing it out in public, so he was keeping it safe in a bag that he had.
Bags packed, but keeping the ring and a valuable gold bracelet close to his chest, David Hammond decided to do a bit of sightseeing.
He went to the hippie fair, and whilst he was there looking around at the stalls, he felt something brush up against him, and it was only later on, whilst back at the hotel, he went to unpack one of his bags and realised that the engagement ring was actually stolen, along with the gold bracelet.
Thankfully, Mr. Hammond knew exactly what to do in a situation like this.
I mean, thefts do happen there. He actually went to the Brazilian police to get a crime report.
Armed with his crime report number, on his return to the UK, Mr. Hammond reported the theft to his insurer.
Now, the diamond engagement ring was a bespoke diamond ring that had been made in the Hatton Garden area, along with a gold bracelet. Quite high value. I mean, the diamond ring was around 18,000 and the gold bracelet was 3,000. Because of the value of this claim, in excess of £20,000, it was thoroughly investigated and close attention is paid to the details that he would have given surrounding the circumstances of the theft.
The insurer has many tricks up their sleeve to investigate a claim.
During investigations, investigators had trawled through social media and they'd found a picture of his fiancée wearing a ring that looked remarkably the same as the ring that he had reported as stolen whilst in Brazil.
The picture had been taken a couple of months after the Rio trip. Confused, the insurer approached David Hammond. Mr. Hammond, of course, had a simple explanation.
He said that it was a replica and paid sort of a low value amount for it in order to keep his fiancée happy whilst the claim was going through.
The investigators just weren't convinced by David Hammond's story, so they referred the case to IFED, the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department.
He couldn't back up what he was saying, didn't have a receipt for the replica, couldn't say where he bought the replica from, had no other information to offer, couldn't actually give us the replica. You know, all those things lead to just lies, really. He admitted that it was fraudulent from the outset.
David Hammond pleaded guilty at the Old Bailey, where he received a 6-month suspended sentence and 200 hours of community service.
This type of opportunistic fraud we see day in, day out here in this unit. It is unusual in the fact that it's quite unique, a bespoke diamond ring, and because of that value it's going to be investigated thoroughly. I think when it comes to motivations for fraud, it's always down to one thing, and that's money and greed. Well, it's two things then, isn't it?
Coming up, a dog owner doubles her chances when her pet goes missing.
She miraculously mentioned a second Chihuahua, who also happened to be called Bella.
And a group of fraudsters claiming for several laptops seem to be suffering from a case of amnesia.
He was staying in a bed and breakfast that night. He could not remember the name of the establishment, the address, or even the part of London where it was situated.
Mobile phones. They're not just an accessory, they're a necessity. But today, they're now more than just a phone. For some people, they're an alarm clock, their camera, even their travel agent or bank. And for many, they'd be lost without them.
An investment in a smartphone is £400 or £500, plus in many cases people will sign up to 2 or 3 years contract with their mobile phone provider, and that's a big commitment.
Andy Morris from Assurance Solutions has heard it all. He's come across many claimers who found themselves in deep water.
We had a customer who rang up who claimed that they'd lost a high-end smartphone. They'd said they were on a boat on a lake.
We went out on my boat and we were going around the bay. My mum keeps having something going on her phone. So I took my SIM card in there, see if it solves it. And without realising or even thinking about it, I put my phone on the side of the boat. And then the boat went past, my boat rocked and the phone just slid straight off the side.
But just before the phone fell into the lake, the claimant had removed the SIM card from the device before it fell in to swim with the fishes.
But accidents do happen.
It's quite believable because a lot of our customers lose their phones or damage their phones, dropping them in the toilet or dropping them in a river or a lake or when they're in a boat.
Following the claim, the insurers went about their usual checks.
We then used our data analytics and looked at the call patterns and identified that the SIM card and that phone had been used after the claim had been logged to make telephone calls.
Or, to put it a bit more simply,
the phone was actually being used from the bottom of the lake.
By now, the insurer just wasn't convinced. Several calls later, they contacted the claimant once more to finally get to the bottom of their story.
I just got a couple of questions that I just need to ask. So, you've spoken to one of my colleagues yesterday, and she just questioned in regards to the phone being lost, and you stated that you didn't actually see the handset drop into the water. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so you're making the assumption that somebody could have picked the phone off?
Well, we don't. I'm not making assumptions to anything. All I know is we took the SIM card out, put the phone on the side of the boat. We were fiddling around my mother's phone. We turned back round and the phone was gone. It is possible that someone could have grabbed it or not. We don't know.
The insurer wasn't swayed and denied their claim. However, the stories and lengths people go to make an insurance claim for a lost phone don't end there.
We had a customer who was claiming for a high-end Samsung smartphone. This person had been dropping their friend at the airport when they actually lost their phone. They telephoned us to report a claim.
It wasn't long before their suspicions were raised.
On logging the claim, we'd asked the customer for proof of ownership, that actually they had the phone or a unique identification number that we call in the industry IMEI. The customer was unable to provide any of those bits of information.
The claimer seemed a little confused by the insurer's request.
The claimant initially challenged us and said they needed further clarification. So our agent, because of their training, offered a variety of ways for the customer to prove that they did own the phone.
The insurer asked if the claimant could provide any proof of purchase.
The customer said, absolutely, I will go and get you proof of purchase and I'll send something. We agreed to accept the original box that the phone came in that the customer offered.
But the insurer couldn't believe what landed on their desk.
When the box actually appeared, it was obvious. My 9-year-old child could have done a better job, but ultimately the customer had doctored and created the box.
And in true Blue Peter style, here's one we made earlier.
The serial numbers were wrong, the pictures were wrong, the barcodes were wrong. He quite clearly had had a good day on the clip art. In that example, despite the customer thinking so far out of the box he created one, the claim was declined because it was incorrect evidence.
In January 2012, the City of London Police joined the fight against insurance fraud by forming an elite squad known as IFED, the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department.
IFED combats all sorts of insurance fraud across the board, ranging from opportunistic jewellery thefts to crash for cash.
They've made over 550 arrests and have saved millions of pounds in fraudulent insurance claims, money which ultimately goes back in our pockets. From now on, fraudsters need to watch their backs.
So if you're thinking about it, I suggest think again. There's every chance you'll get an IFED detective come knocking on your front door.
Today, IFED are cracking down on suspected travel insurance fraud. People who have gone on holiday and falsely claimed for theft of luxury items such as clothes, jewellery and electronic goods. In total, 70 officers are working with the City of London Police up and down the country, investigating a series of claims ranging from £500 to £14,000. It's early in the morning. DC Andy Jackson and DC Kerry Huffington are heading towards the address of a suspected fraudster to carry out a raid for potential evidence.
This job today is one of about 21 jobs that's going to be actioned today.
The alleged fraudster has made a claim on her travel insurance for several luxury designer items.
What we'd like to do today is get to the address. We'd like to locate the female who's claimed on this policy. We're looking at arresting her and then conducting a premises search just to look for the items which she has reported lost or stolen. In front we've got a couple of officers assisting us. The value of the claim goes into probably about £2,000. Fraud is fraud, you know, whatever the figure is, it's irrelevant really. But let's go and see what happens when we knock on the door.
The officers arrive in the early hours of the morning, hoping to catch the suspect by surprise.
Good morning. Sorry, my name's DC Jackson from City Police. Is it right if we come in and I can explain what it is I'm doing here?
It may seem like a small case, but the officers treat all suspected fraud the same.
We're here because we suspect that you've made a fraudulent claim. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to be arresting you now on suspicion of fraud. Okay, we're going to take you down to a local police station and we're going to be interviewing you on this matter. But while we're here, we're going to search the premises because we're looking for the products that you reported stolen. We'll search every room, okay? But if you want to give us those items now, are they here?
The woman has denied that the goods are at the property, so IFED now have to carry out a search of the house. She's arrested by the local police and led away.
The local officers will be taking her back shortly to the station, which she will be interviewed on this matter later. She'll be given her opportunity to account for the validity of her claim regarding these items. This is a multi-occupancy house. She has one room in this house. We'll be searching that room to see if we can locate any of the items that we're after.
A thorough search of the suspect's room begins. The officers can't afford to miss anything in their pursuit of possible evidence and leave nothing unturned. They find a number of electrical goods that could prove to be important in the investigation.
We've seen some laptops. We'll have a look to see if we can find any of the other articles.
The officers delve a little further and come up with an interesting find.
Yeah, under the bed, just found a box containing a set of very similar in name to the item that we're looking for as one of the items reported in this claim.
DC Jackson and his team have finished their search and hope they've found the potential evidence they were looking for.
We've seized a number of items very similar to what it is that she's claimed for in her policy. Also in the bedroom was a box which had the same serial number matching that of the item that she's attempted to claim for. We're going to make our way now to custody and we'll be interviewing her very shortly. It's a small part of a big day. Travel insurance fraud, yeah, it's a big thing. It's something that needs to be looked at, and hopefully today, by what we've done here today and up and down the country, this might deter people from making fraudulent claims.
Later, IFED continued to target travel insurance fraud.
The items we're looking for are a telephone. You still have that?
Britain is a nation of animal lovers. With 17 million cat and dog owners in the UK, 15% of these owners have pet insurance. If one goes astray, it can be an emotional time for the owner. So when insurers get claims for lost pets, they have to tread carefully.
Bella, the Chihuahua, was a case of a young dog in the back garden with a policyholder inside that miraculously went missing.
This case initially caught the insurer's attention due to the amount of the claim.
When the claim came in, we saw that the purchase price was much higher than you'd expect for a Chihuahua. Bella, the Chihuahua, was insured for £1,000. The average purchase price for a pedigree dog in this day and age is around about £400. So for your Labradors, your Retrievers, Chihuahuas, yes, a little bit more, certainly not £1,000.
Despite the amount, on the face of it, it did seem like the claim was legit.
This was a textbook claim. The dog warden had been informed, the veterinary practices had been informed, the police had actually attended, but could find no evidence of theft, so they hadn't filed a report.
Things seemed to be going swimmingly until the insurer asked for one final detail.
Bella, we knew she existed. You know, the veterinary records were there. The last thing that we wanted to check was back with the breeder. And so we asked the policyholder for the breeder's details, and the details they gave us, we couldn't find the breeder. No, the phone wasn't answered, and we struggled to track the breeder down.
The investigators were like a dog with a bone, and their perseverance paid off.
When we did track the breeder down, and we found her on social media, she actually wasn't the breeder of the puppy at all. She was a person that the policyholder had sold the puppy to. So she still owned the puppy, and she said that the person we had as a policyholder had actually bred the puppy.
Armed with this insight, the insurer approached the policyholder.
Upon questioning, she admitted that Bella the Chihuahua had been sold to her friends, and she then miraculously mentioned a second Chihuahua, who also happened to be called Bella, was the one that had gone missing. So quite bizarre.
But the policyholder's stories didn't stop there.
With Bella number 2, there were no veterinary records. There was no police report of the theft or the loss. There were no reporting to the local veterinary practices, the local dog warden, or the local animal rescue centres. We couldn't determine that Bella number 2 had actually ever existed.
The insurer put 2 and 2 together.
So at that point, we immediately suspected that the breeder, who was our policyholder, had the puppy, had Bella, sold her to her friend, and then she'd gone out and insured Bella herself, even though she didn't own her anymore, and then put in a fictitious claim for the loss and purchase price of Bella.
The insurer had had enough of the claimant and thought it was time to call her bluff.
We suggested we'd send loss adjusters round to see them, and miraculously, same day, the policyholder withdrew the claim.
The policyholder had, quite simply, been caught out.
With this type of case, once you spot the initial signs, the cases tend to unfold before you. People aren't that clever at covering their tracks. Social media is a godsend for the insurer who uses it properly.
The ascent of the laptop has enabled us to work on the move. Around 2/3 of us use a laptop, and the latest models can cost anything up to £3,000. But for some, they see this as a chance to use their contents insurance as a nice little earner. One group of crafty fraudsters got a little greedy when they submitted 3 claims over a 3-month period.
All 3 were claiming for laptops costing several £1,000s, and presented to us documentation in the form of purchase invoices, eBay documentation, bank statements.
But the documents supporting their claim set off alarm bells.
The fraudsters went to considerable lengths to falsify documents using the correct letterheads, using the correct fonts and terminology. However, when our investigators in the office and in the field examined these documents in more detail, we found significant discrepancies.
If you look closer, you can see the figures don't quite add up. These numpties clearly failed their maths test. They've forgotten to add on the pence. Right, let's do some basic maths. 5 plus 3 is 8. Oops, they've got that wrong. 4 plus 2 is 6. And not 0. Wrong again. But to be fair to them, they've got the total of the pounds right. Not convinced, the insurer interviewed all 3 claimants.
We found numerous discrepancies in their versions of events. One of the claimants claimed that he purchased a rail ticket on the day for a return to London from Coventry for £41. Our inquiries showed that actually a cash ticket bought on the day would cost £138.
One claimant seemed to suffer a severe case of memory loss about the particular details of his visit to his sister.
He could not even remember where she lived, her address, or even the part of London where she resided. He went on to state that he was staying in a bed and breakfast that night. Again, he could not remember the name of the establishment, the address, or even the part of London where it was situated.
The insurer wasn't having any of it and thought it was time for their investigator to pay one of these fraudsters a visit.
When our claims inspector arrived at the address, he found the property to be unfurnished. Mr. Decory claimed he was still living there, but there was not even a chair for our inspector to sit on, and he had to take a statement while sat on the floor.
But then came the real gaffe made by the scammers.
The same address was used by one of the other claimants, purporting to be his mother's address, and claimed she had lived there since 1999. Unbeknown to him, our claims inspector had been at the same address 1 week before, where he'd had to sit on the floor.
For the investigator, this was more than just a coincidence, but a serious slip-up by the fraudsters.
1 or 2 discrepancies in a case would be understandable. However, when we encountered more than a dozen discrepancies and inconsistencies, along with significantly falsified documentation, it led us to only one conclusion, and that was that this was a serious attempt to defraud the insurance company.
However, one of the swindlers seemed to be getting cold feet and wanted to withdraw his claim.
Shortly afterwards, we received a text message from Mr. Sejal saying miraculously he had found his laptop and now wished to withdraw his claim. However, he had already submitted false documentation, false bank statements and a false invoice from Apple.
Regardless, Direct Line passed all 3 claims on to the police. In November 2013, all 3 were given 12-month community sentences and ordered to carry out 150 hours of unpaid work.
Claims of this nature are becoming more prevalent, and what we find is that as technology changes and new products and specifications are introduced, people use an opportunity of a false insurance claim to upgrade their equipment.
Today, iFed are knocking on the doors of multiple addresses, targeting suspected travel insurance fraud. This is part of iPad's clampdown, with zero tolerance of fraud, no matter what the claim.
We see some laptops. We'll have a look to see if we can find any of the other articles.
It's believed that over 7,000 travel insurance claims a year are fraudulent. Even though the individual claims may be small, it's the sheer quantity that's causing the travel insurance industry a real headache, to the tune of £7.5 million a year. iFed are targeting all suspected fraudulent claims from £500 upwards. One travel insurer is Seeger, who has come across cases where people have taken it to the extremes.
We always see customers claiming for designer clothing such as Prada, Louis Vuitton or Armani. They don't seem to have clothing from high street brands.
But insurers have seen a dramatic increase in the number of medical claims on travel insurance.
Customers will travel on holiday and then claim for cosmetic surgery procedures and try to disguise those as medical emergencies. We've recently had a case where a gentleman suggested he was involved in a road traffic accident, but the only injuries that he sustained was to his nose. When we completed the on-the-ground inquiries at the clinic, it then transpired that the customer had in fact had a pre-planned nose job.
And don't assume that because it happened abroad, that it's out of sight, out of mind for the insurer.
Fraudsters may assume that as the incident occurs overseas that we cannot investigate their claim, when in fact it is just as easy to investigate an overseas claim as it is in the UK.
As part of a national crackdown on travel insurance fraud, IFED are taking this battle to the doorstep of alleged travel insurance fraudsters. While his colleagues are down south, DS Marcus Allen and financial investigators Simon Stiles have headed north to investigate another suspected case.
She'd been on holiday, and at some stage whilst on holiday, she stated that her purse and handbag was stolen. And subsequently, she reported it to the police and made a claim in relation to the contents of the purse and handbag. These included a camera, some cash, some euros, credit cards, and a mobile phone.
Good morning. My name's Marcus Allen. I'm from the City of London Police. We've had a matter reported to us which regards you. Can we come in and talk to you, please? Who else is in the house? Oh, okay, all right, fine. We work for the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department. We've had an allegation made against you by an insurance company regarding a claim for when you went on holiday. So we're here today to arrest you for that on suspicion of fraud by false representation. Is that clear?
Yeah.
You okay? Right, good.
Just shocked.
Yeah, well, like I say, it's been reported to us, we're going to investigate that, but the first stage is to speak to you. The items we're looking for are a telephone. Do you still have that?
Nope.
Okay, where is that?
That was actually stolen.
The woman claims she had some items stolen just days before going on holiday. The suspect goes and gets dressed in order to help DS Allen with his inquiries.
I'm just going to have a quick look in there, and also in your purse, but you can watch me do it.
DS Allen starts his search for any possible proof of a fraud.
Is this one of the cards you reported stolen? That's the replacement card. Where did you say the other stuff is?
The team have to be sure they don't miss any evidence, from paperwork to the items themselves.
I just need to confirm that this camera was not the one that you reported stolen.
The police have to carry out a systematic search of the house, searching every room.
Right, just so you know what we're going to do now, we're going to go to the police station, you've checked in with the custody officer, and then you'll be dealt with today.
She's been very cooperative, and now that she's been arrested for fraud by false representation, they're going to take her to the local police station to be interviewed. We came here with the intention to seek her and arrest her, and so a good day for IFED.
The woman later admitted the offence and was given a police caution. The suspect arrested earlier in the programme is still under police investigation. In total, 13 people were arrested during IFED's raids, targeting suspected fake travel insurance claims.